Just got back from Mexico, my third trip. I took a group there. In 1 week, we framed walls, interior walls, up to the roof of building a church in a very, very poor area. You might say, now, what in the world does this have to do with anything? This was in Guadalajara. A lot of people go on projects like this. But there's an amazing story in the middle of this. The pastor, his name's Miguel. Miguel is now 30 years old. His wife's Janet, 4 kids. A bunch of years ago, he had a gang of 1,000. He was a major drug dealer. He stabbed a guy and had to get out of Dodge. And he was left with Janet. They'd been mixing drugs in their apartment, and they left town. And through just one of these wild stories, he found Christ. Went back into Guadalajara, looked around until he found the guy he'd stabbed, hadn't died, reconciled with him, and then found a little church, not too far from where he'd grown up. Little church, in a poor area, and started going to church. He became the youth leader immediately. There was only one vehicle for the entire church. That was a water truck that he drove to sell water. Only vehicle. So you can imagine that kind of community. 6 months later, the pastor gets called to another place and says, "You're the pastor." He'd never even had a formal wedding. He was now the pastor. And our Hispanic leader from Dallas, great leader, made a trip there, got to know him, made a second trip, married him and Janet, the 4 kids as attendants at the wedding. The third trip, I went along, and we started TUMI. And by that time, we had maybe half of them in Spanish, I forget. And I was there the first night they had class, and watched these 14, 15 students, had name tags on. They'd been giving $1 a week, every week, to save up to buy their curriculum. Now what's interesting is Juan Pablo from Dallas, he taught that first class. Miguel was going to be on his own the next week. So he's taking notes from Mag later, writing down, because he's on his own the next week. I went back 2 years later. By that time, they'd already planted another church with a worship leader from the church. This last trip, we had graduation. 8 of the 14 graduated. The others will be graduating later. Miguel graduated with the students he had left.